Alright guys, I had a check engine light come on the F350 and it ended up being a P1335, which is the EGR not parking in the low voltage proper location. So when the EGR gets low voltage, it's supposed to, I think, close, and it's not closing properly. It's probably dirty. So I'm going to do a video about cleaning the EGR, but before I do that, I don't have anything to get up in the engine bay. So I'm going to make a fold-up table, and that will be so I can keep tools and everything around me while I'm working in the engine compartment. So I figured I'd document that before I did the EGR cleaning, and I'd throw that on YouTube prior to the EGR stuff. So this video will be about me building a little table to stand or lay on, hold tools, that sort of thing. And it'll fold up because you want it out of the way when you're not using it. So I'm going to move the camera closer and we'll get started. Alright. So first thing I'm going to do is really simply just make a structural top. Just a 4x8 top that I can reinforce with some cross members so that it won't bow under my weight. And if you don't know, all 2x4s come long, a 1/4 inch long. So this end happens to be the good end, or a good end. So we'll go down and cut the other end. And this board's cupped, so I'm going to put the cup out so I can push in on it. I'll tag the ends in and then push the cup in. And this plywood's been cut short by about 1/8. That was nice of the plywood factory. I'm just using leftover crappy sheetrock screws because I'm going to paint it. Alright guys, I just got one end done. The sides are already done. Didn't figure you guys would want to watch me putting screws in. So the only comment I'm going to make here is it's sitting on the sawhorses and it was crowned, so I put 3 screws in it and got it all straight. This had a little bow in it, so I put one in here and then pulled the last of the board out. But they're not attached through the boards here, so I bought some 3-inch coated screws, exterior grade screws, and I'm going to run them in from the end to pull this up tight. And I try to bring them in as far as I can so that I don't end up splitting the end of the board. I did split the one here because I pulled it in too far. But so these are just pulling, this is attaching the frame, not just to the top of the sheet. So I'll go ahead and stop you guys there because I'm just going to repeat it 3 more times. Alright guys, so I made a bunch of progress yesterday. I kind of had to pre-run one side, pre-assemble, because I wasn't quite sure if it was going to work and how it was going to work. So what I did, I wanted to make a set of legs that would, I want this to fold up, and I wanted to make a set of legs that would fold out, and I made some wrong measurements yesterday. I included the side, and I shouldn't have. I should have just included the top for my overall height because these legs tuck down in. So it ends up that the legs are 31.5, which makes it, plus the top makes the overall height 32, which was what I was shooting for. And these legs flip up, and I'll kind of go through that. So first of all, I'll explain the bracing. Now I have the, make sure you guys can see that. Oh, down. So the bracing, I just made it clear the legs, so when I close the legs up, it just clears. And so obviously the table is a full sheet of plywood, 4x8. The legs are at 36.5. They're on that side of 36.5. This leg has not been moved yet. I had made some math errors, so I've got to move it in. Hopefully the plywood is, stiff enough. I think it is not to deflect when I'm standing on it. So I knew I wanted these legs to hinge down, and I've got a way I'm going to lock them in place once they're up, and I'll kind of go over that. So first thing I did was I have hinges. Let me grab a hinge real quick so you guys can kind of see it. Let's see, where are they? So the way I trimmed these boards out, if you'll notice, I don't know if you guys can see it or not in the video, there's a slight taper cut just in this area where that bolts on. And the reason for that is if you don't let the taper out, the hinge will actually hold the leg up off of the ground. So I cut the taper so that the barrel, so that the legs sit. This one happens to be a junk piece I messed up on. The legs sit right on top of the barrel without being, normally they would be held up like this, and it would want to actually keep the leg up because you're forcing the heads of the bolts together. So I actually cut a small, and then what I did to get the taper, I just pushed the board up against a flat corner, and I held the hinge in place, and then I just took a pin and traced the line and then cut the board on the line. So that's how I got the taper, and so you can see it's from about here to here is a little slight taper for this hinge, so that it when it's bolted on, this surface and this surface net out flush, so it can sit flat on the table. So anyways, back to what is going on here. So these legs are 31.5 plus the 1/2 inch top. And then these blocks right here are to keep it from being able to move around with any sort of play sideways. So I put those in last. What I did is I took a measurement across my legs here. I got these hinges at a local big box store. The distance is 41 and 11/16. So I cut this brace. Put you guys around. Make sure you can see it. So I cut this brace here at 41 and 11 as well, and got that in. It's 3 inches down from the bottom of the leg, 3 inches that way. And then I just took, to get my angles, all I did was took a board that I had left over and I laid it across the back and threw a screw in it. And then what you do with your pin is you come along and just draw a line here and here with it, with the board on the outside, and that gives you your cuts. And so then this thing fits exactly. You know, I checked my corner to corners to make sure they were the same and to make sure that it was square, and they are. This just happened to fit in there just right. So when I was all done, I had this leg portion done that would hinge up and down, but it still had some side-to-side flop. It just wasn't real strong. So then what I did is I had some of these laying around. They're just 4x4s. These happen to be pressure treated. And I pushed these up tight against the corner, and then I put a screw in from the bottom pointing inward so that as the screw tightens, it pulls it down and towards the board. Same on this side. So I put that screw in first, then I just put the second bottom one in, pulling, you know, with the screw like this, so when it tightens up, it pulls it down again. And then I threw 2 more in the top and 1 in the middle. So there's 5 screws, 5 3-inch screws total, and I used 3-inch hardware all the way around on this stuff. These screws that go on the top here, I'm going to replace them with number 12s. They stick through, and I'm going to sand them down from the other side, because you don't want to use a 1/2-inch screw because you only get maybe like a 1/4-inch bite. And so I'm going to go ahead and throw like maybe 3/4-inch screws in, and then I'll just dub the tops off with my belt sander when I get all done. And so the last portion of this that you're going to see next is I'm going to make some boards that are hinged, and what they'll do is they will flip up like this so that this leg can't collapse while I'm working on it. And so they'll just be on a hinge and they'll be tight, and I'll just be able to flip them up while I'm working, and then they go like this, and this can be folded down when I'm not using it. So that's going to be the next part of this project. So I'm going to go ahead and get those in. There's no real use in you guys watching me throw screws in and fool around, and then I'll get back to you. Alright, so you guys can see what I'm doing here. So I attach the hinges up as close as possible, and the reason for that is if you attach them back here, you could get, you know, slight lifting on the board. I doubt it, but I'm going to attach them as close as possible. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that this board is shoved all the way back when I throw my first screw in, so that this is tight when it's flipped down. So I'll get a screw in my screw gun. I'll make sure that this leg is back and under a little bit of tension, because the other side I didn't do that. And then I will get all 3 screws in. And last screw. And that way when I flip this down, when I flip it up, it's actually tight. You know, the leg doesn't move. So I'm actually going to reposition the other side because it's a little loose and I don't like it. Throw it in a different set of holes, and get back to you guys. Alright guys, so the table is finished, and I'll kind of show you how it works. So these right here flip in and out. They keep the I need to saw that down. It's hitting right there. They keep the legs from buckling when it's, you know, down, and you just flip these in, and then this flips down. These blocks here keep it from being able to move side to side. I just got old 4x4 that we had laying around here. And then, like I said before, these are 3-inch. This brace is 3 inches down, and then I just traced a diagonal and put it in there. So one of the things I think I'm going to do when I get done here is I'm going to build a little trolley for one end, which is just a piece of wood. So something you guys might want to do is, it's just a piece of wood that fits over this that has a caster on it, and you can do them for both ends, and that way they're removable when you don't want to use them. But when you want to wheel this around, it's going to be fairly heavy, and so what you're going to want to do is be able to wheel it around. Or the other thing I thought about doing was making a dolly for the side. So that would just be something that had that went over the end and had a set of wheels, one on each side, and it would work the same way. You'd be able to wheel it around by yourself and just balance it on those two wheels. So either way, that might be a good option, but that's my folding table. It's going to be used for working on the truck. In the picture behind me, again, you just flip these things out, and then this thing can't go anywhere. Legs can't fold up on you, and when this is flipped over, even if these are loose, they'll want to automatically flip down because of their weight and stay in place. And then when you're done, you just flip them down after you get that cut, and legs fold up. Now I'll probably make something to lock these in place down, but for now I'm not going to worry about it. So I hope this helps someone, and I'll talk to you guys later.